This is a simple illustration on how the brain creates actions or non-actions through input, processing, and output steps. The brain gathers information through inputs from nose, mouth, ears, eyes, touch, or even internal information like pain, hunger, body temperature, thoughts, etc. Then the inputs will be interpreted in different brain areas in the processing step to decide as to whether and how to act. The neurotransmitters are then sent to initiate motions, create the movements, adjust the movements, and the tasks are performed. In response to that input, whatever your brain thinks and or interprets about the input from the situations or what's happening during the processing step will determine the output as known as actions or non-actions, and also in the form of your feelings, emotions, and outcomes of the circumstances from that input. So it is not actually what's happening or the situation itself that generates your actions, emotions, feelings, and the outcomes of the circumstances, but it's your brain's interpretation of the situations that determines your emotions, feelings, actions, and thus the outcomes of the circumstances. How is it so? Here are some examples. Let's look at the first example. The input is that a dog is barking. Tony, a man. Annie, a woman. They hear and see the same situation, same input. In the processing step, Tony's brain interprets that the dog wants to play with him. The output for Tony would be that he smiles and is happy to play with the dog. For Annie, on the other hand, her brain interprets the same input that the dog is going to bite her. And thus, her output in the form of feeling would be that she got scared, and in the form of action would be that she runs away as fast as she can. So why does the same input trigger different outputs for Tony and Annie? It was the different interpretations of the input during the processing step of the brains of the two, right? So, how did the brains of the two interpret the same information differently during the processing step? We'll look at that in the next video, I promise. Next, let's look at the second example. The input is that when we hear the word, let's make money. For Bill Gates, when he hears this input, his brain interprets that it is very easy to earn money during the processing step. For me, when I hear the same input, during the processing step, my brain could interpret that as it's difficult to make money. The output for Bill Gates would be his feeling of enthusiasm when hearing the word let's make money. And he would take some active actions to generate money, right? The output for me could be the feeling of hopelessness when hearing the word let's make money. And my action would be to sleep at home instead of taking actions to make money. Now let's look at the third example. The input for the two girls is that their husbands bought them a diamond ring. Jessie's interpretation is my husband is lovely. Thus Jessie's output would be that she feels happy and smiles all day. Bobby's interpretation is my husband must have cheated on me. That's why he bought me the ring to compensate for his wrongs. Thus Bobby becomes moody and angry at her husband. In the three examples we can see that the inputs are exactly the same or similar. However, because of the different interpretation in the processing step, it yields different outputs or outcomes for the moods, feelings, and actions. Therefore, somehow, if we can change or shift our interpretations of the inputs, our actions can change to create the outcomes we want. The question is how? In the next video, we'll dive deep down into the processing step to understand how the brain functions in this step. Thank you very much for watching our videos. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.